If you were around in the 1960s, surely you remember the live-action TV series Batman. Adam West played Bruce Wayne and Batman, and Burt Ward played Dick Grayson and Robin. The two of these defended Gotham City from an assortment of villains. The upbeat theme music made it instantly noticeable if you heard it come on the TV. It was aimed largely at the teenage audience, and it captured it at that time. The series was created by William Dozier, and it aired on ABC for 3 seasons, from January of 1966 to March of 1968. And those episodes were twice weekly during the first 2 seasons, and then it went to the normal format of once a week during the third. I guess you would call it a crime series, but the style of the show had a real tongue-in-cheek manner. It was a true situation comedy in that the situations were extremely exaggerated and were generally done just for the laughs in them. The fight scenes were always infused with unique word overlays like kapow and zwap and numerous others that added a cartoonish type appeal to it. There are many top Hollywood names from that time that had guest roles on the show, including many who didn't do much television at all. Performers who weren't asked to be guest villains usually just popped their head out of windows to exchange a few words with Batman and Robin as they climb up a building wall. Frank Sinatra, Natalie Wood, Cary Grant, all of these stars were fans, and they wanted to be on the show, but the producers were never able to work them in and come up with the right roles for them. Of all the villains that are portrayed on the television series, Mr. Freeze had the most actors that portrayed him. George Sanders, Otto Preminger, and Eli Wallach. Catwoman also had 3 actors that portrayed her as well: Julie Newmar, Eartha Kitt, and Lee Merriweather. But Merriweather only portrayed her in the Batman movie. One of the most popular characters was played by Burgess Meredith, and that was his role as the Penguin. The producers always had a script standing by and ready for him whenever he was back in L.A. and could shoot an episode. It's also fun to look back at the time where he made a brief cameo appearance as the Penguin in the TV series The Monkees. That was in Season 2, Episode 25, called The Monkees Blow Their Minds. When Burgess was cast as the Penguin, he hadn't smoked in 20 years. He came up with the Penguin's distinctive squawk because the cigarettes irritated his throat. The other thing he improvised on was the waddle that the Penguin had. Meredith found that it was difficult to stand and walk straight while wearing the rubber-padded suit as part of his costume. During the run of the series, there were 5 Batmobiles that were made for it. George Barris was the automobile designer in Hollywood that created it, and his original starting canvas for the car was a 1955 Lincoln Futura. The shot that you usually see of the Batmobile leaving the Batcave was filmed at Bronson Cavern in the Hollywood Hills. The car was about the same width as the cave entrance. To avoid ripping off the fenders, the film crew used an old trick that Hollywood had created in its early days. They undercranked the camera so that the car could come out slowly, and then the footage was sped up in post-production to make it look like it's going normal speed. The giant lighted lucite map of Gotham City is really just a reverse image of St. Louis, right down to locations like Forest Park, Fairground Park, and Tower Grove Park. You can even see Horseshoe Lake on the Illinois side, as well as the rivers and the road networks. Shortly after the series was released and aired in England, there were several children who were hurt while flying out of windows trying to emulate Batman. This prompted Adam West to discourage children from practicing what he did. Many props that were used in the series were also used in Lost in Space, The Time Tunnel, Land of Giants, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. During this period, during the 60s, there was a lot of swapping of product to make these shows a lot cheaper to produce. Now, they used a few filming tricks that probably the average viewer doesn't realize, but all of the scenes that were shot in the villains' hideouts were filmed at a crooked camera angle. This filming shot is known as an oblique shot or a Dutch angle. This gives the final product a sense that there's something wrong in the shot. Prior to his being cast for the show, Alan Napier had never heard of Batman and didn't know who the character was at all. This made Napier highly resistant to the idea of playing Alfred. He didn't want to be in a television show that on the surface sounded ridiculous. When it was mentioned by his agent that the role would pay him over $100,000, Napier immediately changed his mind and accepted the role of Alfred. Madge Blake became seriously ill just before filming on the third and final season. Most of you will recognize her in her Aunt Harriet role, but she's probably even better known, or at least as well known, as her role as Larry Mondello's mother in Leave It to Beaver. Aunt Harriet was eventually written completely out because of her declining health, and the producers had just really gotten frustrated with her because the directors said that she stammered through her lines and she kept forgetting them too. The other thing that led to them giving her the axe was just budgetary concerns that occurred during that third season. They covered all this up by saying that she was away on various overseas vacation trips. The first two seasons were off the charts with popularity, but in season 3, things really started to decline, and the series lost ground in the Nielsen's. After ABC canceled the series, the producers waited to see if anyone else would pick the show up. Then they took it upon themselves to just destroy the Batcave when nobody appeared that they wanted the series. 2 weeks after this was done, NBC offered to pick it up. They were completely unaware that this set was already dismantled, and they were just unwilling to invest in the high cost of rebuilding that entire set. So NBC ultimately declined to acquire the series. During the show's third season, ABC tried to get creative with the budget to try to save money and keep the show on the air. They thought about eliminating Chief O'Hara and Robin and bringing Batgirl up to become Batman's full-time partner. William Dozier and Adam West were completely against this idea. They started butting heads with the studio executives, and shortly afterwards, ABC canceled the show. It's hard to ever imagine Batman without Robin, but they were seriously considering this as a way to save money. This series has to be one of the most recognizable from that era of television. And if you were a kid growing up during that time, you would rush to the TV every time it was scheduled to air. Adam West often referred to the Batman series as one of the big B's that made an impact during the 60s. The other two being the Beatles and Bond, James Bond. The original soundtrack album that includes the Batman theme is a big standout to jog your memory. Along with the theme song, there were 11 other hefty Bat songs included. Take a look back at this absolutely ridiculously done series that we all grew to love in the 60s. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.